the Eradicator.
Alright guys, we are going to finish our live stream with Ship Showdown. It is happening right now. Finally, we have the 16 ships that have been selected by the community. And so in this video, we are going to check them out. I'm going to rank them. I'll give them a score, which of course is going to be totally subjective. That's the point of these videos, right? You guys are going to agree or not agree. That's okay. I'm counting on you guys to put your own scores as well in the chat on Twitch or in the comment section down below on YouTube. And so it seems that we have quite a couple of ships with the 600i Explorer, the 890 Jump, the C1 Spirit, the Defender from the Banus, the F7C Mark II, the F8 Lightning, the Fury LX, the Gladiator, the M50, the Mercury Star Runner, the Reclaimer, the STV, the Syulen, the Terrapin, the Ursa Medivac, the Vulture. And so let's get started right now with the 600 Explorer, which is really interesting because it's a ship that grew on me. I didn't like it at all at the beginning, right? But then I started to see other players using it quite effectively, and it kind of got me jealous, right? Of course, the 600i is very famous for its high-end components and also its durability. This is a ship that has really good shields, and it is very hard to kill, and if you are flying it, you are not going to die easily flying this ship. What I don't really like about this ship is its looks. It's like a big round stone, kind of looks like that flying round stone. I'm not very high on it, and also the price, which is quite stiff because of all this luxury. Nevertheless, a very functional ship. I would say that its limited cargo capacity, around 30-ish SU, is really what limits it, which is why it gets an 80%. Next, after that, we are still saying with Origin Jumpworks, this time the 890 Jump, which I like to call the 890 Destroyer. I've made a lot of videos with this ship, and of course it's a capital ship, so that's already a very strong point here. It might be one of the cheapest ones that we have in the verse, if you also consider the Karak a capital ship. I like to use it as a mobile base because of course it has a bed, a medical bed that you can use as a respawn point. It has a very nice hangar as well that you can put snub fighters or smaller ships inside, and also over 300 SU of capacity in the hangar. It also has really nice looks like an Imperial Star Destroyer from Star Wars, and as I said, its hangar here is a strong point. Some of the annoyances, I would say, with the 890 Jump is the price, right? It's almost $1,000, so that's definitely not available for everyone. In fact, it's so expensive that they only sell it in limited quantities, and I would say that it lacks firepower as well, right? It could use a few extra guns, especially some of the man turrets only fire missiles, and then once you are out of missiles, you are kind of screwed, right? So that's why it gets a 92%. A very good score, but would have had even better if the ship had perhaps a little extra firepower. Now, another ship that's going to get a really good score here. You've seen me fly this ship a lot in my videos. This is the C1 Spirits from Crusader Industries, a ship that has a fantastic looks. I love the front here, which makes me think of an Imperial Lambda shuttle from Star Wars, but also its speed, a very fast ship, which is one of the points, right, from Crusader Industries, to fly through the gas atmosphere of the gas giant as quickly as possible. It's actually quite decent at combat here, with two laser guns here that are well, kind of gimbal, although you have to still have to be as careful. You have to aim as carefully as possible, and some really good cargo capacity here, 64 SU, which can be divided into two containers of 32 SU, which is very practical. We can't really say the least for bigger ships, unfortunately. It also has a tractor beam at the bottom in the back, so that also helps if you want to put cargo inside. I would say that the only drawback of the C1 is that it's a little bit too broad, so especially this can be an issue in hangars, but CIG have since then readjusted the hangar sizes for this ship, so now it should be a little bit better if you want to exit or enter a hangar with the C1 Spirit. Next, we have the Banu Defender. Now, this is a ship that a lot of people love or hate. Personally, I would never fly Banu Defender on my own if I had this in my hangar. It has the alien looks, which I suppose many people would like, especially those unique designs and materials in the game, which you would not find anywhere else except on Banu ships. And it also has an interior, which is quite nice. You can use this ship to do, for example, delivery missions, which is not the same for most ships that are combat oriented. It's also a durable ship here. It's a tough ship to kill, but it also has some drawbacks. As I said, its look, some people love it, some people hate it, unfortunately. The separate cockpits, I would say, can also be, I mean, it's quite a quirk here for the ship, in my opinion. It prevents, for example, people doing voice over IP effectively, if you guys are doing that in the game, although most people use Discord anyway. And it's just weird. I've never been a big fan of ships with separated cockpits like that. It kind of makes me think of the Bespin twin pod car from Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. And also, another bad thing about the Defender is the alien tax, because alien ships usually cost more in Star Citizen than other ships of the same size, of the same category, that are designed by humans for humans. So that's why the Defender gets a score of 65. Next, we have a surprisingly good ship here, which is the F7C Hornet Mark II. With a lot of firepower, you can have up to 6 guns at your disposal, which is really good. And it's also the OG design, right? Although a little bit updated, but nevertheless, still that shit that we saw in the very first trailers for Star Citizen back in 2012. I love also the flexibility of the design, which allows you to switch different weapons here and have different builds. You can have full lasers or lasers with also some ballistics, or you can also have lasers and distortion weapons as well if you want to be using a build to then disable ships to then let a crew perhaps board some ship that you are fighting. It has a limited range though, especially if you are changing the quantum drive. I tried to do that with the fastest quantum drive and I was not able to leave any planet in the standard system, so that was making it almost like a snub fighter, which is not very good. And it also kind of feels like a cash grab because we already had the Mark 1, so there's a little bit of a controversy here, which is why it gets a score of 70%. Next is the F8 Lightning, supposed to be the upgraded version or the next evolution of Anvil's fighters, but it also has its own controversy. I would say that, of course, the firepower here is extremely good here, with a lot of different weapons, also 6 different guns. There's no turret on top, unfortunately, unlike the F7. And also, because of all of this firepower, you have the same kind of flexibility that you would have with the S7. Unfortunately, it's also not best for your money as a result. If you are maybe looking for a little more durability than an F7, perhaps that's your thing, but it's much more expensive also as a result. And on top of that, it is regularly getting nerfed because it was accused of being way too OP. And just like new ships, CIG usually balances their new ships so that then unfortunately they become less as good as they used to be in the past. Also, CIG did say that they would never sell the F8 for real money. They ended up doing so it also feels like a cash grab, and that's why I'm not going to give it the same score as the F7. This one gets a 68%. Next, we are moving on to the Fury LX from Mirai, which is the high-performance brand from MISC. It has the looks, fantastic looks. People compare it to a TIE fighter from Star Wars, right? It's also a very, very, very maneuverable ship, which is a great advantage when you are racing. The LX is, of course, the racing variant, right? Among its drawbacks is that it's a snub fighter, so you're going to need a mothership to carry it, and it has 0 combat capabilities, so you're not going to be using it for small-time dogfighting, unlike some of the other variants of the Fury lineup. Next is one of my favorite ships, It's not the community's favorite ship, but it's my favorite ship. I try to be objective with this one here. The Gladiator from Engel Aerospace, a very durable ship. It's going to be tough to kill you if you're flying this ship. As we have seen when we were filming Star Citizen Wars, some of these ships were supposed to be killed, and we had such a hard time. We ended up with a lot of crime stats trying to kill this ship. It was really hard. It also has some torpedoes, only size 5s, but still torpedoes nevertheless, which is going to make it a very effective ship to destroy other vessels like Constellations, for example. And for a bomber, it is surprisingly agile. You are going to be able to do some dogfighting, especially against NPCs if you are flying this ship. The drawbacks is that it's more effective with a gunner, so I would highly recommend you guys to fly this ship with a gunner if you want to have access to 2 more laser guns. And also I would say the payload is not enough with only 4 torpedoes and 8 missiles. I wished that it had at least the double payload that it has, which is why it only gets a score of 67%. Next, we are moving to the M50 from Origin Jump Works, a very fast ship, one of the fastest ships in the game, which makes it a really good interceptor, which was the role it was originally sold at in 2013. If you guys remember, that was called the M50 Interceptor, and I would compare it as the A-Wing fighter from the Star Wars universe. I love its size. It's a very tiny ship here that you can fit in, for example, I believe it fits easily in an 890 jump. You can fit several of those in an 890 jump as well, but it also has quantum capabilities too. This is a ship that can fight. It has dual laser guns as well, and also you can do racing if that is your thing. Unfortunately, I would say that some of the drawbacks are the firepower, which are, I mean, these are size 2 lasers, fixed size 2 lasers, and it's also quite fragile as well. You are going to be, I would say, losing a lot of hit points if you get hit, but the thing, of course, is that you have to get hit first, and so it gets a score of 85%. Next is one also of my favorite ships here. Maybe I'm biased, a lot of people are going to be disagreeing with me. That's okay. The Mercury Star Runner. I love the cargo capacity here of 116 SCU that you can put in the cargo bay or in the hidden storage that's located there in the interior. You have to open a couple of panels, and then you have the secret storage here, which is also shielded. That means that the security forces will not be able to see what is inside. Good point here, I've used the MSR in the pyro system, and I've hidden inside the shielded cargo area when there was a solar flare, and guess what? I did not get any damage, or at least the body of my character did not get any damage. So that is also, I would say, a secret feature. I don't know if that's going to be staying for Alpha 4.0, but in the playtest that we had a while back last year, it did work like this, and I thought that was a pleasant surprise. It also looks fantastic. It's like a Millennium Falcon in Star Citizen, and fantastic speed as well. You can easily outmaneuver, and not outmaneuver, but outspeed some ships that might be chasing you. The problem is that it lacks firepower. The pilot only has access to some size 2 guns, and you can have more firepower if you have gunners, but you need to have gunners, right? That's the thing. And also durability. Once your shields are out, you are going to get damaged pretty quickly as well. Last but not least, it could use an additional entry point, right? The fact that you have to go through the ship, through several doors, and then that stupid little elevator in the back to get through the cargo area in the back, I really don't like it at all. All right, next, the Reclaimer. Now, this ship, sure, it's a money printer. You're going to make a ton of cash with this ship, and also it's quite hard to kill. But the problem is that it's a very old design, and it's something that feels, right? Inside there are lots of bugs, lots of clipping. A lot of people are dying inside their own Reclaimer. It's also a very slow ship that's not maneuverable, and so I'm giving it a 50%. Enough said here. Next, it is the STV, a ground vehicle that I personally like a lot. I like its looks here, which I think is the vehicle that looks like a car the most in the Star Citizen universe. It's quite a fast one. I think it's one of the fastest, if not the fastest, ground vehicle in the verse, and it's at least with wheels, right? I'm not talking about gravlevs, and it's also quite cheap. But unfortunately, it is not a utilitarian ship, so do not expect to put any SCU cargo or whatsoever here. It's just to go from one place to another. And so it gets a score of 56%. Next, we have the Getak Syulen here. Sure, it has some unique looks and some outdoor cargo that really help out, I would say. But unfortunately, I think that it requires some XP if you fly this ship. You need to be quite experienced in the Star Citizen universe, and also it's not very practical because of its vertical landing and takeoff, right? So you're not really seeing exactly where you're doing that, and as a result, it's best to do that in third person. The price also, it has an alien tax, so it's also going to be more expensive than your regular ship here. That's why it gets a 45%. After that, we are going to go to the Terrapin. This is a ship that I believe Avenger 1 likes. I've watched him do some dogfighting with this ship, and it was surprisingly good, right? So what it's shown is that this is a very, very durable ship, if not the most durable ship. This ship will just never die. It's very, very hard. It's one of these tanks in Star Citizen. It's also a compact ship. It's really not a big ship at all, and so you're going to be able to squeeze in tight spaces with that ship. The only drawback is that there's not much of a use, right? I don't really see any point in which this ship is particularly good apart from surviving, so that's why it gets a 53% only. Next, the Ursa Medivac. So this one here, an interesting ship here, which also brought in some controversy, right? The Medivac also fits in most ships that we have in the verse, and also has the sought after respawn capability. It also has some guns which would allow it to defend itself against other ground vehicles, but also some ships that would attack it from the air. I have seen that at my own expense. The only drawback is that the medical bed is only a tier 3 bed, and also we don't know how long the respawn capability will be available with tier 3 bed. First we could respawn with tier 3 beds, then we could not do it anymore. Now we can again. Is CIG going to change their mind again in the future? Unfortunately, only time will tell. So you're taking a bet here if you're getting the Medivac, and so that's why it gets a 66%. Last, we're going to finish here with the Vulture. The Vulture, which is the single player salvaging ship here. And so it's an entry-level moneymaker. Some people are making up to 500,000 Alpha UC per hour with this ship. It's possible to make quite a few amount of cash if you know what to do with it. It's also solo operated, although it's better to have someone else with you. Some drawbacks is that the interior is very clunky, especially you have to go through a ladder, and I really don't like it at all. Limited cargo space, only 12 SCU, but luckily there's a buffer here which allows you to keep an additional 13 SCU, and it's also a rather slow ship. So there we have it, guys. We have checked out all the 16 ships of the ship showdown that we were having this year, and so I would say that according to me at least, the best ships would be the C1 at 96%, the 890 jump at 92%, and the MSR at 90%, with at the lowest part would be the Reclaimer at 50%, the Vulture at 49%, and the Syulen at 45%. But what are your favorite ships, your best ships, and why? Also, please let me know in the comment section down below. That is all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I would not be able to make all of that content without my Patreon and YouTube members, including Dr. Fabin, Zero Crusher, Deplorable, Infidel, Ducky2Ducker, Shadowrise, and Kilo. You like this? You like the content? Perhaps you can also consider subscribe. It will really help the channel a lot. It's also the end of this live stream, so we're going to be raiding someone here. We're going to raid my buddy DG360, so we're going to do it right now. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I have been Irad, and I will see you guys in the next one.